Nigeria's leaders undermining national security. Tony Inyam, page 34. And still talking about security, over 100 military personnel, 200 civilians killed in 5 months. Report. And the rider, as Boko Haram again raided 2 military formations in Borno, kills 5 soldiers, injures 6. I mean, looking at the audacity, looking at the effrontery, looking at the, do I call it bravery of attacking insurgents, attacking military formations.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the operational style, the modus operandi of the terrorists. You pick a target, not necessarily for wanting to take it over, but when you hit a military target, I mean, you make a statement. A statement embarrassing.
Embarrassing statement.
Against the state, non-state.
It's just like, reminds me of September 11 when Pentagon was in America was hit.
Yeah. I mean, it's been, you know, they did it in Niger. They've done it several times over and over again in the northeast in Borno. Sometimes they will even overrun military posts. And then, of course, naturally, the personnel there will withdraw, you know. They will naturally withdraw as a military strategy and then regroup. But the embarrassing thing is that they hit. And that's embarrassing.
Okay. Now, moving to the Guardian newspaper, there is this very sad news. Still, I'll call it some of the ripple effects of the embarrassing mass failure of the recently released UTME 2025 results. And this has claimed another life. UTME, 19-year-old commits suicide in Lagos over low score. Page 9 of the Guardian newspaper has that story. Away from that, National Security Summit, stakeholders reject plan. Flays stalled proposals, high military casualties. Away from that, reps reject bill proposing rotational presidency. And another one talking about politics. Ganduje wife others to face prosecution as court rejects application over alleged fraud. Nigeria must work, says Obasanjo, as Lamido seeks closure to June 12. Okay, away from that now, looking at the Punch newspaper, the biggest story on the front page of the Punch newspaper talks about the mass failure at the just released UTME results. JAMB VCs to review UTME results Thursday. And the rider under that caption says, rectors, provosts, principals, examiners to meet JAMB chiefs. Candidates decry results discrepancies. Away from that too, FG voided June 12 to avoid paying Abiola 45 billion naira. And talking about PDP, political firefights, Saraki panel mobilizes PDP bigwigs against defections. I heard that 3 more senators defected again from the PDP to the APC, and leaving the number of senators we have, PDP senators, to 30.
I think APC has 70 something.
68.
68.
Because there's a breakdown of it on the front page of the Nation newspaper
And
saying
won.
APC takes majority in Senate to 68. And looking at the breakdown, I can see APC 68, PDP 30, Labour Party 5, SDP 2, NNPP 1, ABGA 1, and vacant positions 2.
It is assumed that the LP numbers will still reduce. Maybe where OT is, they won't defect if OT himself does not defect. So that Labour will reduce to 3. Yes. And of course, PDP, we're still going to see a few more movements.
Okay, it's 20 minutes to 10 on Solutions 93.9 FM. It's from the dailies now, one after the other. We will be reviewing the stories. The first one I'd like us to review this morning is the one that has to do with our, they say that the youths are the leaders of tomorrow. This is about the students now. Mass failure JAMB VCs to review UTME results Thursday. Now, comrade, we spoke about this briefly last week when the results came out. JAMB actually released the results on May 5 this month. Looking at the breakdown of the results, over 1.94 million students sat for the exam. Over 1.94 million sat for the exam. But sadly, less than 500,000 scored above 300. About 75% of that figure failed to meet up to on 200 score mark. What went wrong? We've never had it this bad.
Well, I think a whole picture, a full picture, will reveal that overall picture might reveal that it might not be as bad as we think. We have this statistical breakdown that puts 900 and something thousand, which is 50%, in the 159, 199 bracket. Well, number one, if you look at university scores, 160 to 199 is a pass in university grading. Number two, I'm a son of teachers, and I've worked in tertiary education for quite a while. You see, you know that people are no longer seeking knowledge. What people seek are in pursuit of is, I think my father was saying this even in the 90s, certification. People are no longer in pursuit of knowledge. People are in pursuit of certification, which some people used to call meal ticket.
Who do we blame for that?
Yes, because that is why it has ended up with education being called a scam. Value. You have parents arranging for their children how to pass exams. By special centers. You go for JAM special centers for WAEC. All sorts of parents, teachers, even people in JAM, even people in academia. We have all been enablers. You understand? Everybody's like, and why does it happen? People are ready to exchange money for, academic excellence.
Okay.
Lecturers are collecting money. You understand? At whatever level. So people are more in pursuit of not knowledge, but certification. And they say you can pay for it. People write PhD thesis. You employ people to write it for you at any level. So if it has gotten that bad, what are you going to get? I went to UI one day. I think it was the admission officer. A girl was admitted for medicine. She had A in all O-level results.
O-level results, yeah.
She didn't survive one semester.
Yeah, I had friends like that too, that we
sure
entered UI that year with very high grades, but couldn't even survive first semester.
Admitted with A's medicine. Of course, where are you going to look? One man, when I was in admission office, one man brought his girlfriend. I knew the girl before probably he knew her. And then you brought results that shows sciences. In fact, it was so good that the only place you could admit her was in computer science. And the man now came back and started telling me that I was going to be. I said, me, my teacher. I help you to do what? The girl wangled her way through the system. I graduated. And the next place I was going to see her was in another university where I worked. I just went into the data center, data center, and I found her there. I almost jumped out of my skin. So, this is the way, the foundation we have laid. And of course, on it, we will build.
But in as much as all this you've mentioned exists, we can't rule out the fact that there are still some students who read, who still hold their academic pursuits in high esteem.
Yes.
Now, I read something when I was reading through this JAMB issue. Now, there is this quote I got from University of Waterloo that talking about examination. It says one of the qualities of a good examination is that it must provide an equal opportunity for all candidates to fully demonstrate their learning. Now, looking at this just concluded JAMB examination, this UTME examination now. Now, we've heard so many discrepancies, even before the results came out. There were many students that said they were deprived of sitting for that paper. Some even said that out of 60 questions, maybe only 10 showed. Some were even saying that they couldn't even finish up before their systems went off.
Shut down by itself.
Shut down by itself. So I felt JAM must have addressed that before coming out with results. Because now this result, even before this results came out, I expected this kind of mass failure because I knew one-on-one many of the students, even some of them had to leave home as early as 5 a.m. Some were even made to stay in the sun for so long. I mean, a student that wants to write an exam,
exhausted before you
even face you've subjected them to lot of pressure, lot of hard time. Let's listen to some of the students who the candidate of JAM.
And they said they were going to reschedule me, but they haven't rescheduled me. It's been over 2 weeks now. They should reschedule it. I've been waiting since. They've not gotten back to me. They've been saying they are doing investigation.
Well, the overall JAM experience was good, but I had a problem with my English. I did only 45 questions because number 1 to 10 in the English questions, there were no questions, it was only options. And the questions were 55 instead of 60, so that was the only problem I had.
Addressing issues like this, because I guess most of the problem these students are encountering in JAM exam is because parents have no avenue where we can come together and come to speak for these children. And I guess from now, because like we are putting up something very soon, an association where parents can come together and begin to hear our voice about saving the interest of our children writing these exams.
I must talk about the process of the exam. What some students experience before they enter the examination hall. This experience is horrible. You can't imagine me going for an examination and I will remain inside the sun for hours to prepare for an examination. It's uncalled for.
Now, voices of some parents and students who actually sat for that examination. You heard the lady that said she was able to attend to few questions and other questions that didn't come up. And now she got a result. Failed. There was no level playing ground for all students across board.
Just like you read out, there must be a leveled playing ground. If there's no level playing ground and you're applying the same rules in judging, because this is judgment now, that is unfair. Like they say, no be today, this time around, it is just more pronounced. The very first challenge I have with this CBT thing is there was no transition. We just jumped from
the paper exams.
We jumped, no transition. And then there are people in schools, even within the city of Ibadan, yes, because the level local governments that form Ibadan, there are schools. Thank God for devices, but those devices, these handheld devices, are different from the operations of a system. You understand? Of a computer system. And how many of them have had access to a computer system?
To be able to operate the system effectively.
To do more than just, what if, maybe they will have locked down the system to just, all of that. But to be able.
When you said that we jumped from the paper examination to CBT,
that was
what
no
did you
transition.
mean? Well, you said it was no transition. What do you mean?
You must make provisions for some people. There must be option now. It's just like the days of SAP. You say, Falaye was saying, there is no alternative to SAP. There is no alternative. And then somebody say, even to death, there is an alternative. So, yes. And then you put a time limit. By so. In another 5 years, we will stop it completely. And then everybody knows, you understand? Knows that this is the transition window. Now, apart from that, we had those children. Even when I took JAMB, Damola, and I think it was the first or second, maybe the first set of JAMB, I did it in Ife because I was at the College of Arts and Science. Damola, we were at the center before 7. Now imagine how many of us? Now imagine 2 million people. And then the circumstances. The way those things are, you choose. Everything was done. You choose, and then this time around they just post you. They post you.
We even had a case of some cases of some students scheduled for 6 a.m. exam.
And you know the painful part of this thing? I don't think JAMB has an effective feedback mechanism.
But the JAMB registrar, Professor Ishakulu, they came out last week to debunk all these allegations.
Damola, it is easy.
We played the statement here on the program.
Yeah.
It debunked all allegations, said there was nowhere any student was deprived, there was nowhere that they didn't record any lapses or malfunctioning of the machines.
That is what they call the alternative truth, the alternative narrative.
And there were allegations of students being posted to centers very far away from their areas.
The multitude of feedback we got from parents, from the students themselves, across various, locations in the. I mean, for God's sake, the truth, the fact. Look, even alternative truths exist. You can't dismiss wholesale. You are dealing with human beings here, flesh and blood, and you can't just wholesale dismiss. You had one parent there that they're getting together now.
Organizing themselves.
Yes, I've always told you that we must always organize ourselves, or else how can the executive or the register of JAMB come around and start dismissing? You remember one particular encounter with one Baptist school a few years back, and he went there and accused the Baptist school. I can't remember exactly now, and they virtually came around to apologize because that school wasn't going to take any nonsense from them. You understand? Yes, I think that school was charging for some internal things.
Okay, I remember now. I remember, yeah.
And he went there and was going to dress down, but of course, I mean, they were not going to take any crap from the man, and they stood their ground and, told him to his face. So all of these things, dismissing, without conducting any, you dismiss offhand, without conducting any investigation. It is not good enough. And let me tell you, as good as it might be, that you don't have to write many exams, you understand? Because before that, it used to be concessional exams. You apply to university of your choice, you understand? You go and write exams. You go and write essay exams or whatever. But even now, it doesn't have to be, what do you call it? It doesn't have to be essay exams. You can apply to as many, and then you don't pay many admission, you don't pay many registration fees and all of that. But if some people want to opt out of this, let them opt out of it, you understand? Because you remember it got to a stage that they had to be conducting post-UTME exams when the whole system became suspect. And then they wanted to make some money too, because they still pay, well, even if you don't do post-UTME, they still do screening and all of that, and you pay. Universities get money from you one way or the other. But if people want to opt out of this thing, look, they must do an evaluation, a thorough evaluation, and address the issues, all these combative, and the man lacks, he clearly, patently so lacks the requisite language of in addressing. JAMB has a public relations officer.
Yeah, that is Fabian Benjamin.
You have to address this issue in a manner that will address the issues, but will be soothing too. You understand? Like you see, you are listening, and you are not. The man was reacting; he was not responding.
Well, I have a statement of Fabian Benjamin, the spokesperson of JAMB. He had this to say as regards all these allegations against JAMB.
The complaint from these states, majorly some few states in the southeast and perhaps Lagos, and these officials, these experts that we brought, we're opening our system to them to go in, to look at every responses that these candidates have given. And where there are sufficient reason for us to act, we will do the needful. We've done that in the past. The issue of subjecting our script for public scrutiny, we've done that severally. In 2012, if my memory does not fail me, we called candidates who came and marked their script themselves. We gave them the marking scheme. They marked their script themselves, scored themselves, and they arrive at the same judgment and all those things. But that does not mean that what we're having this year, because we've never had this avalanche of complaints from candidates. And that explains why the registrar, Professor Shagoloide, is leading the team and is not taking it lightly and is going to look at it critically, and the needful will be done.
Okay.
You hear the language.
Fabian,
you hear the deployment of language.
Fabian Benjamin there.
You can see the distinction in the deployment of language. You see, this is important.
He's the image maker of JAMB.
Let the man that is appointed to do the job. Look at the deployment
his choice of words,
His
very
choice of
diplomatic and very
I
nice.
drive through JAMB office in Ibadan at least 3 times a week. The optics is not nice. The optics is not nice.
He admitted that this is the first time avalanche.
That's witty.
Avalanche of
That
complaints.
is witty. Before the exams, the road was almost practically blocked every morning. That was not nice. That's not nice.
Now, if JAMB is admitting that there were there's an avalanche of complaints now, is that not enough to at least cancel the entire examination, just like some parents and some segments have been calling for?
That would be a monstrous.
Because there was no level. See, comrade, the best global practice when it comes to exam demands that examinations must be conducted with fairness, integrity, and in an environment that allows the students to show what they know. Obviously, this didn't play out in this just concluded JAMB examination.
We had 1.9 something students. Even if we had 200,000, 300,000 complaints nationwide, would that be enough reason? If some people have been deprived, even some robbed, because we have to be honest.
And you know, some students lost their lives too on that day.
That one is even horrible.
Because they had to travel long distances to get to their centers.
So the important thing is to
subjecting them
to the lessons learned.
And there's another, before we leave this JAMB issue, there's another allegation that, let's take a listen at this parent talking about that.